This video covers Section 8.2, Relations, Practice Problems. Practice 1, write the inequality x is greater than or equal to -4 and less than 5 in interval notation. The graph of it looks something like all the numbers in between -4 and 5, including -4 but not including 5. Sometimes we use parentheses and closed circles to represent that, but I like to use parenthesis and bracket because the interval notation uses the same thing. And it's always the left number to the right number, all the numbers between -4 and 5, including -4. That's the interval notation. If we have it given in interval notation already, all the numbers that come from -infinity all the way up to 7 as an inequality, that would be all of the numbers less than or equal to 7. Numbers 3 and 4, different kinds of problems. We want to find the x so that its absolute value equals itself. So they just find the values for x, meaning could x equal to 1 work? Could x equal to 2 work? Could x equals 3 work? Could x equal -1 work? Could x equal 0 work? Could x equal -2 work? Which numbers satisfy the property that the absolute value of that number is itself? So if I try the absolute value of 1 and see if that equals 1, that's a true statement because 1 is equal to 1. The absolute value of 1 is 1. The absolute value of 2 is also 2. So these are all true statements as long as the number that I put in it is positive. If I put in 0, then I have absolute value of 0 is 0, and that's also a true statement. So it looks like so far like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, they all work. But when I start putting in the negative numbers, absolute value of -1, is that -1? No, because the left side's 1 and the right side's -1. No matter what, if we put in a negative number, the absolute value is positive, the right side's negative, they're false. So all of the x values for which x, absolute value of x is x, we say that absolute value of x is equal to x if x is greater than or equal to 0. Those are the x values for which the absolute value of x is equal to x. And number 4, we want to know the values of x for which x squared is equal to x. Does it work for x equal to 0? 0 squared is 0. Yes, 0 squared is 0 equals 0. If I plug in 1, 1 squared is 1, and the right side's 1, so that's true. When I get to 2, it says 2 squared is 4 equals 2, which is false. X equals 3 is 3 squared, which is 9, equals 3 is also false. So we've found 2 numbers so far that work. X equals 0, x equals 1. If I try -1, squared is -1, that's +1 equals -1. So it's not going to work for the negative numbers either, because when you square a negative number, it becomes positive. So the only 2 numbers for which x squared equals x is x equal to 0 and x equals 1. So you've actually done this before in Math 60. X squared is equal to x if x squared minus x is 0. You subtract x from both sides. And then it's a quadratic equation that we solve by factoring and get x times x minus 1 equals 0. Then we set the two factors equal to 0. And we get x equals 0 or x is equal to 1. So 0 and 1 are the numbers that make x squared equal to x. And this concludes the video for section 8.2, Relations Practice Problem.